Now, the most trusted name in radio, serving the Treasure Coast for over 30 years, Rhett Palmer, the mayor of the airwaves.
And it's a new day if you want it to be. We've got Amir with me. Amir is a doctor of a pharmacy.
Yes, sir.
And
Happy to be here.
great to have you here. He's the owner of a couple of pharmacies in our region. One is in Fort Pierce. The name of it is?
Port St. Lucie, actually, Butterfield's Pharmacy.
Butterfield's Pharmacy. But so that's technically down in Port St. Lucie, and that's on...
right off of U.S. Highway 1, right across from St. Lucie Medical
what
Center.
do they call that road, though?
Hillmore is the actual road that I'm on.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And then also you have Perkins. Now, there's a number of Perkins, but you have the Perkins out on Route 60.
Yeah, State Road 60, right across from KFC, we say, and next to Taco Bell.
And what makes you special, right next to Taco Bell, what makes you special is there's the one Perkins, of course, where they sell the equipment, rent the equipment. You're next to it. You're the pharmacy. What makes you unique is that we've been getting special medicines from you for years, Barbara particularly, and that is because you make compounds.
Yeah, so we like to say personalized medicine or compounded medicine. And as you know, we've talked about before, it's just medicine that's not commercially available. It's very individualized to people's weights, medical conditions, blood levels, really designed to optimize their health. So kind of a unique thing we do.
And now how did you get involved in this business, being a pharmacist?
Well, every pharmacist, especially if you go back 100 years, you had to compound almost everything, right? There wasn't a whole lot of commercially available drugs like there is today.
So the pharmacist would, in an old-time USA in the 1950s, would actually be making the product behind the counter.
Yeah, they would be getting raw ingredients, raw chemicals, and then building out the medication, mixing it with different syrups and solutions or making capsules or tablets. And the art was kind of lost through the 70s and 80s and 90s when Big Pharma really became about. They created a set of drugs for every condition they could think of, right? And you no longer needed to custom compound things. And then, midway through the 90s, there was a movement, right, in the health and wellness space for personalized medicine. So, you might not want to take this dose or that dose. You need something in between, or maybe something that's not even made for general population. And so compounding is really resurged. And there's a handful of us across the country that still do this and do it really, really well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
So
on.
specialized medicine is I presume it's very rewarding because you get to help people.
Yeah, so for me, I like to cook, and
Cook?
I cook, yeah.
At
And so,
home?
Yeah, and so making compounds is a lot like cooking.
Ah.
There's a recipe, there's a procedure, there's a exactness to it, and also a bit of creativity to make sure that the product comes out, just the way you want it. So if you like to cook, you'd probably like to be a compounder, we always say.
Now, you're a dedicated Christian, and it's funny that today, though, we're talking about medicines, and you bring up something that wouldn't benefit you at all, but will benefit the listeners.
Sure.
And that is that it is written in Proverbs that merry heart maketh good like medicine.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of those where you said biblically
Yeah.
about being healthy. We want to expound on that?
Yes, I think, as we're approaching the Thanksgiving season, right?
Sure.
One of the things that we talk about, I don't want to say we talk about it a lot, but during our coaching sessions or talking with patients, we talk a lot about gratitude, what role that can play in their life and how to have gratitude practices. Have you heard of that before, gratitude practices?
Never heard of gratitude practices. I've
Okay.
heard of practicing gratitude.
Yeah, so kind of the same thing in reverse, but done very intentionally in a specific way on a cadence, right, to bring about positive health outcomes. People don't really think about that, like what are the biochemical ramifications of being a grateful person? And that kind of stuff really interests me. Everything that we do in this personalized medicine space is really around biochemistry. What do we affect at the cellular level of human beings? And so there's a lot of interesting data and studies around gratitude practices, and how it can be beneficial to people. So I'd love to chat about that a little bit more.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Gratitude.
Gratitude. So Thanksgiving's coming up. We all say Thanksgiving, we love it. We get the day off. At my house, we sit around the table and we say one thing we're grateful for, right? And for the adults, it's pretty easy. And for the kids, you're like, what do I do? What do I say? And that's the extent of some people's gratitude practices, right? Some people are just, really focused on them and potentially even focused on the negative things that happen in their life. And so, one thing that I remember distinctly, we do a men's Bible study here in Vero Beach at the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym. of all places. And I don't even know if the study was on gratitude, but we had a long discussion about how God appreciates gratitude, right?
Well, he says in the scripture says that you shall enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise.
Absolutely.
And I wish above all things that thou were. I wish above all things that. No, it says. Give thanks in all things, for this is the will of God for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I
it's
used to take that as a dictate because I had sort of an abusive stepfather, one of my very first stepfather, and rah, 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 I thought that God dictates. You got to be thankful. And instead, years later, I realized he's not saying that. He's saying, be thankful in all things, for this is the will of God for you.
yeah, absolutely. And in the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, tons of scripture around Thanksgiving. I'll read it. You read a couple of really great ones already, but offer to God sacrifice and thanksgiving in Psalms. Also in Psalms, enter the gates, like you mentioned, with thanksgiving. Colossians, and let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, and be thankful in whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father. And the examples go on, and it talks about giving thanks and prayer and supplication and talking to God and not being anxious about anything, right? Mm-hmm. Anxiety is a neurochemical reaction, if you will. And so anyways, that was really the basis. I said, I got to have a really good gratitude practice, and this was several years ago. And I didn't come up with this, but it stuck to me, and I still run this practice in my mind at least once a week. And the question that was posed to the group was, what if today you only had the things that you were thankful for, that you told God thank you for yesterday? What if that's all you had in your life today? What would you have?
I'd have a lot.
Yeah.
But of course, I think I'm weird because I drive around thanking him.
Yeah, you are weird, and I think that has a lot of to do with your positive outlook. And you have a great gratitude practice in that, and so that's a simple thing that anybody can do. Right? Hey, I'm thankful I got a job today. We talk about that often at the dinner table with the kids. Yeah. Like, I got home a little bit late. I usually get home a little bit late. But how thankful we were for those customers to serve today. Yeah. How thankful we were for those problems that we could help people with.
Now, I went through a period, though, where I was living in the ghetto of Troy, New York as a struggling songwriter. So I know what it's like to not have. Yep. So that's a good place to come from. Did you go through any period of your life where you had lack?
Well,
what gave you Thanksgiving?
Certainly, I got married very young. My wife was 18. I was 21.
You're young now. How old are you now?
42 now.
42.
So we've been married 20 years already,
wow.
Which is wonderful.
How many children?
5 children. Yeah, getting a new hobby, right?
Talk about death to self.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we got married and we lived above a garage, right, at my parents' place.
Humbly.
For the first year, and then...
I know I lived in a tool shed outside my parents' condo. Yeah. And we took all the garbage, put a little couch in there, and that's why I lived.
Very similar. It was literally a shop underneath.
Yeah,
so yeah, it was a tool shed.
Yeah.
And so, we didn't have any money at all, maybe collectively, mostly her money, we had about $3,000 or something of that nature, and that was it. That was everything.
But that's good. That's a good foundation.
Yeah, but we had each other, and
right.
And we had God, and we had loving parents and other people that we knew could be backstops for us. Thank God we didn't have to utilize them. But in that time, I think it was 2 kids taking on the world, and so we were thankful for that. We were thankful for the health, and that just God had given us each other, right? So in that moment, I think that was where our gratitude came from. But going back to a lot of people think that gratitude is kind of like a soft psychology, right? Like, oh, that's foo-foo. I don't know about that.
Probably more profound than we realize.
The science says different. You can look at clinical trials, with MRI imaging of the brain and the prefrontal cortex and measuring hormone levels. And there is a biochemical, right, reaction to somebody who is demonstrating gratitude or receiving gratitude, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that and which one's more potent. But increases in serotonin and dopamine, right? So if we talk about those 2 neurotransmitters, serotonin in the pharmacy, right? We give people antidepressants, right? They've gone through a traumatic experience.
Death of a mom or a family member or something.
Exactly. And
I took some when my mom died, yeah.
And we do that to raise serotonin, right? To give people an elevated mood and perspective on life, right? So if we think about if we wanted to do that in a natural way, right? A once to twice weekly gratitude practice can produce the same serotonin boosting effects of these, what we call SSRIs in the business. Now, I would say that probably 30 to 40% of the United States is on an SSRI, an antidepressant drug, as an adult, right? These have very negative side effects, including poor sleep, sexual side effects, and you cannot get off of these medications. I would say you can't. It's very difficult to get off of these medications.
The antidepressants?
The antidepressants. Why? Because you go through a withdrawal, right? So you feel even worse as you're trying to get off. And
well, I can remember I forgot to take mine once, and all of a sudden, at the end of the day, and I felt like I didn't belong on this planet. Like all of a sudden, it's like, wow, something really bad's going on. And then suddenly I remembered I hadn't taken it, and then I was okay.
Darn near impossible to get off. And we have to do, and this is like where compounding comes in personalized medicine. We do this microdosing. So we take you from 150 milligrams to 140 milligrams to 137 milligrams.
Oh.
And it will take 6 months to 2 years to get somebody off of these meds. Nobody tells you that when you start it, right? The doctor's 6 minutes with you here. Take this to the pharmacy. The pharmacist doesn't tell you. Long story short,
you should actually probably build up to it too, because I remember a friend of mine, her son started Wellbutrin, and 4 days into it, attempted suicide.
Yeah.
Because the number one side effect is depression, which is really weird.
Yeah, and 'cause I think you finally have enough motivation to get up and do something about the negative thoughts that you've been having.
Yeah.
So we swing it back to the other side of the pendulum. How do we improve our health naturally? I think a gratitude practice has to be in everybody's regimen, right? Mm-hmm. And so the most effective gratitude practice, as demonstrated by scientific journals, MRI imaging, biochemical blood draws, like what really works most effective, is when the study was set up that coworkers would be sitting across from each other, and unbeknownst to you, let's say we work together, I had a letter of gratitude, right? And I read it to you. Rhett, I really appreciate the way that you stepped up and helped me when I didn't have any, rent money last month. You didn't ask for anything back. You just brought it over. That was so thoughtful of you. Me and Timmy got to eat.
I was glad you got that money.
But it meant the world to us, Rhett. We love you. We're always here for you. And I just, you're an answer to our prayer, right?
Yeah.
And so they're measuring what's going on in your brain as you're hearing this feedback and this gratitude from somebody else and the biochemical state. And that's the most potent way to improve your health through gratitude. Now, what's difficult about that is you can't control it, right?
What do you mean?
So meaning that somebody else has to come and show you appreciation. So that makes it difficult, right? And I'm like, okay, well, what do we do with that kind of data? Because it's hard to sit around and just wait for somebody to come and show gratitude.
So what do you do?
Well, the first thing I thought about is sometimes it's better to give than to receive, right?
It is. It's more fun if you learn that in life.
So think about the way you could impact other people if you would take a moment to sit down and either have a one-on-one conversation with them or to write a letter, right, and read it to them or give it to them, right, out of the blue, not for any reason, just, and maybe it's this Thanksgiving, right? Maybe a younger guy like me who's had a mom who's, given everything for him, and prayed over him and supported him and pushed him, or a wife that's, given everything for him. What if we sat down and wrote them a letter, was really intentional with the way that we're grateful for them? You're going to decrease their stress hormones, right, which is going to improve their immune function. You're going to give them increased amounts of serotonin, which is going to elevate their mood for days to come, right? Increase in dopamine, which is going to increase their motivation, focus, and ability to cope with stressful situations, right? And an overall sense of well-being. What a gift you could give to somebody else, right? And so that was the first thing I thought, well, what do I do with this data? Okay, once a week, I go and present something to somebody that I'm truly grateful for, right? Because I don't think we do that enough. So many people have helped us in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And there is still a benefit to the giver. It's just not as potent as it is to the receiver. Now, what could we do for ourselves? Let's just say, hey, other people aren't forward thinking like you and me, and nobody's coming around saying, thank you for the things that you're doing. Well, another study also showed that if you would take the time to recall when somebody did do that, right? You've solidified one or two stories in your mind where somebody came and genuinely thanked you for everything that you had done for them in a situation. And if you would just recall that situation, the things they said, if they had a letter that they gave you that was even better because you could read it, right? It reproduces the same effect. every time you read it. Right?
Yeah. Oh, so have a positive notebook or something.
Positive notebooks. It's even just recalling a situation when somebody gave you gratitude,
Hmm.
right? And then they go down the line. They looked at they also found situations where people would hear a story or watch visually a story in movie of somebody else being helped out in a very positive way. And so I think the study actually had like children, in Nazi Germany, and they would show a narrative about somebody helping these children escape, right?
Mhm.
And even watching that type of story, even though this, the participant wasn't part of that story, that even produced the same biochemical and health reactions, if you would, as somebody who was receiving gratitude. So kind of an odd thing. So a couple different tricks there. The other thing that I do is, take it back to the story of Jesus, right? So, how I was growing up and what I believe is that, Jesus died for our sins,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
he took our sins. He took the lashes and he went to the cross, right?
Yep.
And so, and I
By
don't,
his stripes we were healed.
yeah, I don't know if I've really shared this with anybody before, but like one of the things that I run through in my mind sometimes is like, think about those lashes are yours,
Those
right?
lashes. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jesus.
That's what it said. It says, I think it was Isaiah, that by his stripes we would
Yeah.
be healed.
So imagine the imagery in your mind, a scene playing out where those lashes are yours. You're tied to the block, right? And Jesus comes out and just sets himself over the top of you, takes those lashes for you,
Yeah.
and the gratitude to him.
Mm.
And I think that's just really powerful stuff. Like life can't touch you. All this negative stuff can't touch you. When you have that level of gratefulness and thankfulness and you know how blessed you are, right? And where
Yeah.
you're going.
Yeah.
This stuff, the increase in tariffs or the bad report card, whatever, that stuff can't touch you if you truly have good gratitude practices. So, anyways, that's my thought.
Well, it's true. Let's say you and I could afford to go out and have steak and lobster.
Yeah.
Okay, that's thankful. I don't know about you. There was a time when I couldn't afford to go to fancy restaurants.
Mhm.
So I always remember that. So I appreciate it. But right now, I know I've come to a place in life where if you and I could sit down and all we had was peanut butter and jelly, we can have a feast.
Yeah.
And I mean it because my heart is like, hey, I'm thankful I have this.
Yeah.
Think about
And I think
just that the guy on the bicycle, wishes he had a car, and the guy in the car wishes that he had a sports car, and the guy in the sports car wishes he had a Rolls Royce,
yeah. And the guys who Rolls Royce wish he had time to bicycle with his kid again.
Exactly.
And I think as we get older, we realize, it's not about steak and lobster. It's about people,
It is.
right? It's about people, and it's about the relationships that we
You
have.
would really like it. I gotta do. I'm a lot of talk. I'm a lot of huff and puff in my life. But I've been working for over a year on a book about dignity.
Okay.
Okay, so I hold the door open for you at the post office. You're going to go. We're strangers. We don't know each other. Now you don't even say thank you. But the moment I dignify you, I've already dignified myself. I don't need you to recognize or now, of course, if you do thank me, that's nice.
Yeah.
We've all held the door open, particularly boys, and the guy goes, "Well, you're a gentleman and a scholar, young man." You go, "Oh boy, thank you. It feels very good." Well, there was a guy, a friend of mine's in town. He's visiting, a lifelong friend, and he ran into a guy. It's going to go in the story's going to go in my book. This guy was on his way to commit suicide on the Green Island Bridge in Troy, New York. And he said, "I'll only not do it if somebody is nice to me along the way and says hi to me." Nobody said hi to him. He gets to the bridge, he's going to commit suicide, and suddenly an old man comes up and starts talking to him, validating his participation in the human family. The guy doesn't kill himself.
Wow.
So
incredible story.
you never know an act of kindness. We never know. And rich or poor, sometimes you want to withhold. Well, I'm only going to be nice to poor folks because rich. I remember one time I was waiting in line at Dunkin' Donuts, and I was in a rush. It was selfish, but this lady was waiting. It's also they were selling ice cream too, and so she was going to hold me up, and I had to. I don't know if it was on my way to church or what, but I'm late. And so I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll pay. I'm going to pay you today. Pay for yours today. You pay it forward to somebody in the future."
Mm-hmm.
But she walked out with a little, and you could tell she had an expensive dress on. She got into a prestige vehicle, and I realized, wow, everybody needs love.
Everybody needs love and positive attention.
Particularly, sometimes people have a lot of dough, can be isolated.
Yeah.
I heard a story on the guy on the beach. They have 8 people that work for them full time, according to this doctor.
Mm-hmm.
They have one person full time just to shine their silverware. Yep. The guy stays inside and drinks himself to death every day.
Yep. Well, back to the story about the guy with Rolls Royce just wants to ride on a bike with his kid. Just wants a relationship.
Getting
with
back to a place of thankfulness.
Yep, absolutely.
And sometimes maybe it takes go feed the hungry at the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's a multitude of approaches. We've got a sign that we have in the house, and typically it sits right above the sink. We're washing dishes, putting stuff away, so we see it all the time. But it says, "Be the reason somebody smiles today."
Yeah.
Right. And so you talked about like some people will act a certain way and to the poor or to this person, but I think when we have integrity, and
say that again, be the reason.
Be the reason somebody smiles today,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So think about it, if everybody lived by that, then 12 people would have stopped that guy on the way to the bridge.
Yeah.
Right. But it takes the focus off of us and then onto others.
Well, look how miserable people are now driving around.
Right.
Don't. This started about 15, 20 years ago. No, I'm first. Well, get out of my way. This is my lane. The passing lane is my. Whereas ever let somebody out? Like a couple of years ago, I was out here. They were doing some work on Route 60, out right near you, near 43rd.
Yeah.
Now they were doing some construction. I had to come around the ice cream place there. It's not ice cream. What do they call it?
Abbott's custard.
Yeah.
high-fat
Right behind there,
content
and I'm
ice
going to
cream.
come out that road. And I forgot there's construction. And all of a sudden, this guy with an old truck, he starts blinking his headlights towards me, lets me out. I must have been in a sensitive mood because I almost had a tear in my eye.
Yeah.
It was just an act of kindness, a little tiny act of kindness.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting it, and it changed my day.
Yeah. Yeah. The gift is to the giver and the receiver.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
Dignity.
I spent a lot of time in an assisted living yesterday, and these folks they're towards the end of life, right? And so everything's not working the way that it should, right? And so, you would.
Are you there as a pharmacist? Or?
As a pharmacist, yep. We were doing some immunizations there, and you go in some rooms and they were messy or dirty or smelled like urine or this or that, but you know what we could try? We did our very best to make every single person smile. Pick something out about them, something in their room. That's a beautiful picture you have on the wall. Is that you with your daughter, or what are you looking forward to in Thanksgiving? And we reminisced about pumpkin pie or whatever it is, but everybody needs somebody to pick them up every day. And there's so few people out there who are willing to do it.
What could we do in our society to birth graciousness like that? That's why I was hopeful with it could change the whole world. For instance, I have a friend of mine. She's 94, just turned 94. She's in a nursing home up here on, it may have been the way you were out yesterday, on Indian River Boulevard there, and beyond the hospital and on the left. And every time, I've known her for, 12, 13 years. But every time you go to her, she turns the thing, well, how are you? What are you up to? She's genuinely interested. I remember there was this gracious man worth $100 million who's now off the earth, though. But when I would run into him, like on the beach, talking on Ocean Drive, and he'd always turn it. No matter what I asked him, he turned it around. Next thing, there we are talking about me again because he turned it towards me.
Yeah.
And he had such graciousness.
Yeah. Well, people love the opportunity to share about them, right? Because in a society of people who care so much about them and their experiences and their knowledge, what they need, people don't typically do that, right? And people that do are obviously very good at relationships. Sometimes they become very successful people, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Probably figured out that, hey, if I would just, there was the old guy, Zig Ziglar. You know Zig Ziglar?
I interviewed him.
Did you?
This
That's amazing.
Ziegler, I'll see you at the top. I interviewed him 2 or 3 times on the phone, twice face to face.
That's awesome.
This guy was one of my idols, you might say, growing up.
Yep.
All about goal setting and stuff.
Huge influence on me, Zig Ziglar was.
Isn't that great that you, as a young guy, I'm surprised you know about him.
But he said, hey, you can get everything you want in life.
If you help enough other people get what they want. That's what you're doing with your pharmacy.
Absolutely. So we get the opportunity to make a living and take care of these 5 kids that I have.
You're using your intellect to help others, and in turn, you're getting to feed your kids well.
Absolutely.
5 kids.
Anyway, positive influence. That's super cool that you interviewed him.
Yeah.
Really amazing guy. Never had the chance. I think he was pretty advanced in age when I started reading his books and listening to his seminars.
He wasn't very good when I saw him. He says, I think he had Crohn's disease severely.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of blood in the stool or something?
Yeah. Irritation, inflammation in the bowels. Yeah.
And his daughter had died of cancer, and he wrote a book, Confessions of a Grieving Christian. Yeah. And he gave me this great. He even signed the cassette. And somebody at the radio station must have accidentally. We have these things that erase. It was when we had cassettes. I made a tape. Yeah. And they must have put it near it and erased the whole thing.
Oh no.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Awesome guy. But But anyways, very
I'll
focused
see
on others.
you, Dr. Amir.
Yeah,
I'm
see you.
channeling through Rhett. I just want to say that help as many people get what they want, you get what you want.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
see you
At the top.
at you. He always said you
Yeah.
at the top.
Yeah, he always said it was your attitude, or it was your attitude, not your aptitude, that ultimately would determine your altitude.
Did you know that I used to sing positive thinking songs at business conventions?
I didn't.
Because of him and Norman's Bill, huh?
I did see it was a guitar. I think in one of the pictures out in the, in the studio here.
Well, I have a song called Attitude Can Change Your Latitude, Can Change Your Life. Boom, boom, boom. Attitude can change your latitude, can make it bright.
Yeah.
Hey, old friend, you got the blues again. You're feeling low. Get off your feet. Get off your seat. Get on the go. Attitude can change your latitude,
Yeah. Well, a lot of truths in the song, right? So you think about gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. So going out and being thankful.
I gotta resurrect that song just to give to you.
And then just getting out there and making something happen. You said get up and get on the go, right?
Yeah.
So people
Jesus said, get up
Yep.
and follow me. Not sit there, not get on your knees all day long, not pretend to be religious, not go to more services. Jesus, matter of fact, said, for forever learning, never coming to the knowledge of truth. What is truth? Truth is love in action.
Yep.
You can talk so long about knowing you're supposed to give love. Go give love.
Absolutely.
Go visit somebody in a nursing home. Go like you did yesterday. Go visit somebody in the cancer center in the hospital, right?
That's it. And so many people, even in the church, right, are suffering from anxiety and depression, right?
Yeah.
And if they would get up and go do the thing that they have
That's
anxiety,
the fruit of selfishness, isn't it? Really?
100%. And so, anyways, those are some actionable things that you
this
can
is
do.
very important what you've started here today. I'm impressed with it. I'm really glad you did. I know probably Thanksgiving coming up inspired this, but these truths are applicable in our lives and every day.
Absolutely. And you say, what can we do to start the movement, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my opinion is it's not going to come from the government, right?
No.
And I think it's really God moving through people, right? And we got to be the example. Our churches we have phenomenal churches, in this town. We have phenomenal churches, but we got to go be the hands and feet, and we got to get into action, like you said, right? And bring some people along the way. So that's the only way. I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be God that does it.
Let me ask you this. So you're a young guy. You're 42, you said?
42.
You have 5 children. So I have a son through marriage, but I've never had children, and it's a big regret of mine. So, but I've observed. And sometimes I talk to the Lord and I say, well, maybe I didn't have kids. Maybe I wouldn't have been as giving as I should have. I thought I was a big giver. I love people, but that's also superficial. Because you're a dad, haven't you had to die to self to serve?
100%.
That's the understatement of the year.
Yeah, I think, and I do it gladly. I don't play softball or golf or have any hobbies. I used to play video games when I was younger, and the only video games I'd play now is if my son or my daughter wanted to play. So yeah, you do kind of die to self in a way, but it's very easy. It's so rewarding, and I'm grateful for this time that I have with them as young children. I know it's not going to last.
Yeah, because you and I talk, and sometimes you do travel.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that.
I travel a lot. I work a lot.
The time is coming. The nest will be empty.
Yep.
And it'll be you and your wife, but...
And I'm acutely aware of that.
They're only going to be this little, that long. And
it'll
be tomorrow.
Yep. And so we got to be very intentional with our life and our time.
Good word.
I think with children, it's easy to see because there's a time clock, right? In 18 years, they will all be gone and out of my house and in college or doing other things. But I think all of us need to be intentional with our life in general. God's only given us so many days and years on this planet.
We have our first granddaughter. Went out to see her in Idaho. Now she's gone. We saw her, a year ago. She's 20 months, I think it is, 21 months, whatever. But she was a little girl, a little baby.
Yep.
And looking around like this. Next time you see her, now she's looking you in the eye.
Yep.
Now, then she becomes like she's about 2, not quite 2 yet. But now she looks you in the eye, and you can see the unadulterated, absolute, no agenda love of God in her eyes.
Yeah.
There's not an agenda to get anything from you, take anything from you. It's just pure love. Yep. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
But she is already. I see the pictures recently. We do the video thing at night.
Yep, FaceTime.
And FaceTime, and she's turning into slowly, but you can see the little girl.
Yeah. happens quick, and we get old quick.
How old are your children?
So 13 is the oldest,
Well,
and then
they're all young.
2.5 is the youngest, and then
Oh, my.
everything in between about every 2 years. 4 boys, 1 girl. Awesome kids. We homeschool.
You know what's causing this, right?
Yes, that's why I bought a second
So-
pharmacy, so I'll be gone more.
So your daughter, I mean your wife.
Yep.
So your wife homeschools them.
Yeah, we homeschool them. It's not without its challenges, but we think it really gives us an opportunity to be very intentional about building their character and developing them in a way that that we see fit. Educational level that's at a higher level, but also moves them towards what they want to do. Like my oldest son wants to be a pilot. He hasn't decided if he wants to be a commercial pilot.
It's a good time to do that. We have a school
100%.
for aviation.
Or a pilot in the Air Force. He knows what he wants to do. So
How
we
old
can-
is 13? He's the
13.
one that's 13. So
13,
have you
yeah.
taken him up in a plane yet?
Yes, there's a great program here in Vero Beach called the Young Eagles.
No.
And, so they are pilots who volunteer their time. And thank you if any of you guys are listening for what you guys do. It's really amazing. But they will volunteer their time and their plane and their fuel, I imagine, because we don't pay anything. There may be a donation or something, but they will actually take the students up and fly them around, let them start logging flight hours, and potentially, and I'm getting into trouble, even let them, steer the plane a little bit up there. So a really neat experience. And the way I understand it, the idea is just to get them in love with the art of flying.
Sure.
And so with homeschool, we get to be very
So
intentional.
your son is getting to do that.
He's getting to do that, but even his math and his reading and his communication styles can all be geared towards doing that career. Of course, we're giving him a
Why
good
do
foundation.
homeschoolers do better grade-wise? They make the better college students statistically.
Yeah,
Is it the one-on-one?
not an expert in there. You have my mom on one day. She's a public school teacher. She's
Oh, your
amazing,
mom?
Yeah, amazing public school teacher, but she could probably systematically tell you why
I'd
there's
like to talk
differences.
to her some. She's still around, right?
Yeah,
Or-
she's here. She lives in Fellsmere, and she's got a doctorate in education. And
Why don't you bring her down sometime?
yeah, that would be great. One of the smartest ladies I know, and she could tell you why the differences are. But if you think about it, and I think when I went to school, there was 33 of us and 1 teacher. Unless you are an amazing, charismatic
How do
teacher,
they
how
do
do
it?
they keep that
Okay, I'm
student's
going to
attention?
give you a gift now.
Okay.
And hopefully your mom will listen to this. If she's not listening live, would you make sure she hears this?
Sure.
She's going to like this, and she'll never forget it.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You're going to get them wrong.
Okay.
Then I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You're going to get them right. Who won the Heisman Trophy last year?
No idea.
Hold on. Okay. Who won Best NBA Player? National Basketball Association. Yeah.
No idea.
Okay. Okay. Who won Best Actress last year in Hollywood?
No idea.
Who won Best Actor?
No idea.
Who won Best Director?
No
Okay.
idea.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Yep.
That was actually 4 or 5. And you're going to be able to get them all right, and you've only got 9 seconds to give me the answers, and yet you're going to do it.
I hope so.
Tell me right now 3 people that influenced your life, teachers or mentors that influenced your life in a positive way.
Yeah, so I would say my mom.
Your mom, number
one. My first pharmacy manager, Mike DeWitt.
Okay.
And then I would say, you got Jesus, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus and his
But I mean,
teachings.
like teachers in school or people. People.
So Pastor Stacy, we called him. I went to private school, got in a little bit of trouble.
Okay, Pastor.
So he was huge. Miss Moody,
Okay.
I would say,
That's two, yeah.
she was a really,
What
really
grade?
big one. 3rd grade, multiplication,
grade,
is 3rd
see
grade,
that?
right?
Next.
And then Dana Brown, she had a different last name now, but she was my counselor and director in pharmacy school. And
Okay,
I
so
think she had a huge impact.
There you have it. Now,
Yeah.
you see the people in Hollywood, the people on the news, the big stars, the sports stars, they're not our true heroes. Our true heroes are our teachers. We never, Mrs. Craig, 1st grade, Mrs. Shaker, 2nd grade, Mr. Fox, he could be a pain in the butt, but 5th grade, Mrs. Sweeney, who pulled me aside, and I did little drawings. I do artwork now, and it's been selling.
Yeah.
And she said, you can do well in this if you're willing to discipline yourself and work at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Somebody says something positive. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah, 100%.
There was a lady here, an African-American lady, who came to visit from Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
She saw my art in the back room. Now, I never thought anybody in the world would ever want my yucky art, And she's looking at it. She goes, I was standing right there, and she goes, this is folk art. I could sell this for a lot of money in Washington, D.C. But the moment she said that, I instantaneously became an artist because of her words. God spoke the world into existence. So we are made in God's image. You know, Amir, you're a nice guy. You're a good guy. Doesn't that feel good? So speaking it into you now, my husband, he's been going through a whole process studying chemically how when we speak things, it actually changes people. I'm trying to change people's language. I was on a national TV show, went to Israel and shot a music video. They interviewed me on the 700 Club. It was about the resurrection of Jesus. And at the very end of the interview, I go, it's incredible, you know, and it ends. So I've seen it a million times because you watch yourself on the TV.
Sure.
You go, why did you end it with it's incredible means non-credible. So we have language. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I don't believe it. Oh, it's incredible. And we all do it. It's almost like we have the dark language. And this may sound silly to some people, but I think we need to change our language.
Yeah. I had a similar experience, and actually probably one of the main reasons I'm a pharmacist today.
Yeah.
So when I was 19, I was working in a pharmacy in Michigan, small little town, and I was a technician. And so technician is kind of the entry-level position into the pharmacy. You assist the pharmacist in whatever they need. And I'd asked, who later kind of became a mentor to me, I said, hey, what do you think if I became a pharmacist, you know, like you?
Yeah.
He said, well, you know, tell me what grades you got and, you know, algebra and this and
You
that.
have to be doctor smart to be a pharmacist. I know that because I worked at a medical school.
I said, I got a, you know, a C and, you know, 1D and this. And he said, forget about it. He goes, never going to happen.
Why?
You know, never going to happen. Just because I was a poor student. And I didn't.
Yeah, but with males, a lot of them are poor students, so they find out what they really want to do.
Yeah. And so we fast forward. I finished my degree in what we call CNC machine tool, computerized numeric control of, we'd write programs that would then go and cut out a piece of whatever you want, right? So I remember I was coming up on graduation and I was working in the pharmacy, and I'll never forget this moment. I'm bending over to pick over a bottle of Zantac. That's how clear the moment still is in my mind, right? And he says, hey, Amir, you don't want to stand in a shop for the rest of your life, do you? And I'm thinking, well, what do you want me to do? This is what I graduated in. And he goes, hey, I think you should go to pharmacy school.
Where'd this come from?
And this is a year later, to his credit, right? He'd seen and observed me, you know.
Oh, same guy.
Same guy, but a year later. And in the moment, and I had already been kind of bluffing forward that that's what I wanted to do. You know, I'd met my wife, we were dating, and I said, I got to do something impressive, right? This is a really high-level girl, you know, married up, you know, several levels. I said, she needs somebody who's going to do something impressive. So I'm kind of teasing the idea that I'm going to be a pharmacist one day. I'm going to be a doctor, you know, and, you know, I would be somebody that you might want to consider being with, right? I'll be a good provider.
Yeah.
But I was just teasing the idea. I didn't have the confidence to do it. Very difficult back in 2005 to get into pharmacy school. 1,600 applications, 100 spots. Not a lot of schools back then. And so anyways, he said, hey, I think you should go to pharmacy school. And the way he spoke it and what he said to me, that's all I needed. I just needed somebody to tell me that I could do it. Just like the art situation. You're making it. You're loving it. You just needed someone to say, hey, I could sell this. This is good. You're an artist now.
My engineer bought not this one, but an older guy that worked for Mr. B. And he gave, it was only $65, but he wanted to buy one of my paintings.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't the amount of money. It's just somebody paid it for one of my paintings. And then I had a first show and I sold 10 of them.
It has value, you know.
So, so we all need, ladies and gentlemen, we all have the power. See, everybody wants power. Oh, I got a friend in the White House. I got power. I am a congressman. I have power. I'm a judge. I got power. Or I got lots of money. I got power. Everybody has power. You have the power to give dignity. The most important gift you can give anybody today. Walk down the street and you have power. People feel unempowered.
Yeah. And it all goes back to sharing the love of Christ.
Yes.
Right? In our words and our actions, the way that we show up in every interaction. How do we show the love of Christ? And so much, it is just dignity.
What did Jesus do? He went on healing everybody.
Absolutely.
He never yelled at anybody.
Yep.
He never castigated them publicly.
Yep. And in the reverse, and I think about this a lot as a parent.
Yeah.
Our words have power,
yes.
right? And I've got children that at times can be challenging little humans, right? In the way that they act and respond and treat each other, you know, and it's easy for us to get frustrated. Right, and our words are very much remembered, you know. And I try to choose my words carefully, and I try to focus on behaviors, decisions, and actions in the way that I describe those instead of words. But our words can build people up, and they can break people down just as easy. And as we get emotional, right, our emotions can be positive or negative, and it can impact the way we speak to people in a positive or negative way. And so that's the other side of the power of the tongue and words. It's like, just be careful, because people remember hurtful words forever. We used to say this. I worked a long time at Walgreens in leadership, right?
Mm.
And we used to say, people always forget what you say,
But they remember
how you made them feel.
Right,
Yep.
feel.
Children are the same way. Friends are the same way. Your
Honey,
family's the same way.
that's wrong, and I know that you're going to learn how to do that better because you don't want to be that way, or putting it in a positive spin.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Instead, I know somebody. One of her sons she had late in life. He was a troublemaker, and she said, "You're going to go to jail one day. You're going to go to jail one day. You're going to." The guy ended up being 22, went to jail.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even purposely. He was there with a bank robbery, I guess. And he says that he didn't know that they were going. He didn't know they were going in to rob the bank.
Yeah.
And they rushed out, and he was the driver.
And I try to be so sensitive to that in the way that we interact with the children, or coach and teach and develop the children, because you want to say, hey, if you act like that as an adult, if you take something and throw it at your sister, they are going to put you in jail. That's not the life you want. But then you also don't want to, speak that as some sort of prophetic message, or have them think that's where they're heading, right? Because their actions will follow their beliefs. And if my dad said I'm going to end up in jail, then I'm going to end up in jail, right?
Yeah.
And so our words are very powerful. We've got to be very careful. Parenting
Or
is,
children get attention. Now,
Right.
I do something bad, and I finally, you're ignoring me. You're my teacher, and I'm a kid, and you're ignoring me. And I do something, instead I'm trying to do good and do good grades. This guy doesn't pay attention to me. All of a sudden, I'm a smart aleck. A joke. I got your attention.
Yeah.
That's what I start doing, telling jokes and being a smart aleck all the time. And why is this kid doing this? Because you taught him. You taught me how to do that. Whereas, so
Yeah.
what do we reward?
People are difficult. Kids are difficult. God is good. We just have to do the best job we can. But recognizing the power of the tongue and gratitude and all these things is what makes life interesting.
Did you ever think of maybe committing some of the things you talk and write? Think about to a book or booklets.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I walked into your pharmacy, and another book by Amir.
Yeah.
And it could be a 59-page book. Doesn't have to be long.
Yeah.
Don't limit the thinking. But thoughts on it. Look at this guy. I got this pharmacist who does intricate compounds, but he writes a book on having an attitude can change your life.
Yeah, I had another coach mentor last year, year before, Coach Michael Burt. Have you heard of him? Encourage you to look his stuff up.
How do you spell it?
Michael Burt, B-U-R-T.
B-U-R-T.
Yep, and he writes a lot of short books. So he'll get on an idea or something he's studying and developing and developing the people that he's coaching
Send me
and mentoring.
text. I want us to pick coverage or something. I want us to look at this.
And he'll build out a short book, 20 pages, 25 pages, and it'll be about a concept.
Are they for sale?
They're for sale. They're $5-7. They're not expensive. But
Yeah.
he builds it as a concept, and then he'll talk about it, and he'll get invited to speak at events about this concept. Right. His latest one is having a seat at a bigger table. Right.
What does that mean?
And so he's talking about, hey, how do you get in the room with people who are doing bigger things, the things that you want to be doing, and how do you get it?
Yeah.
How do you get a seat at
How
that
do you?
table? Right. And so, and a lot of that's through, relationship building, network building, sharing your ideas. Hey, I would really like to. I had a guy once, he wanted to build a hockey rink, here in Vero Beach.
Huh.
And he tried really, really hard, and he got a seat at some bigger tables, and I went with him from time to time over to the island and sat in these homes as he presented this idea. And it was very, very close to fruition. It didn't quite make it, but he got an opportunity to sit in front of millionaires who could have made this thing happen.
Yeah.
Simply because he was passionate and shared his idea and what he wanted to do and why he wanted to create it and how it would create benefit for the Vero Beach community. And so I think that's one way you do it. But back to the idea of writing these small books, is like, hey, when you've got an idea, when you've got something good that's going to benefit people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put it in a book. Talk about it more, and
Well,
so maybe I'll take you up on that.
Rick Frischman said 98% or 98.9% of books never make a dime. You're not going to make a profit.
Yeah.
But he said they get you speaking engagements. They get you before audiences. They get you at what you would say at a bigger table.
Yeah, 100%. And that's And I love Coach Michael, and a genuine, amazing guy. And you can see that's kind of how it works for him.
Please
right?
send me a link or something, would
He
you?
gets to speak all over the country, and then he gets to invite
Now,
people
does
to.
this guy live around here?
He's in Nashville, Tennessee,
Oh, okay.
and then he's also got a home in Watercolor,
Now,
Florida.
you're friends with him?
So I've gone to a lot of his programs, and I did
Let's get him on the show.
his yearly coaching thing.
You
Yeah,
could come in and co-host it with me.
yeah, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome if we get him down here. At least we get him on a Zoom, I think. But doing really big things for sure. So yeah, hope to be like that one
Yeah.
day.
Remind me when we get off here, because I want to. I started a health-related podcast a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I interviewed some doctors, and then I just kind of let it. I walked away from it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And all of a sudden now I realize I want to revive that, and that would be good for you.
Yeah.
As a sponsor and a friend.
Well, I'd love to help you do it, and I'm going to be starting a podcast series. With a bunch of local doctors here in town. So I've already been talking to them. I got them lined up.
Yeah.
And it's really just, finding out what their specialty is and then extracting information that will be very beneficial for people to hear.
Maybe we can work on this together.
Yeah, potentially that'd be really, really good. And the idea is just to get information to the people. Of course, these doctors get some exposure, which is good for them because people need to know where they can go to get good
You're
services.
going to go to a pharmacy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you happen to hear this interview
Yep.
with you. Oh, this guy, first of all, there's a value perception that you know what you're talking about. Then they hear you, they like you.
Yep.
It's almost like if you have a website and it's in black and white and then you add color to it.
Yeah.
Well, then if you take an interview like this and you also plug that on your website, somebody can hear, oh, I like this guy. Now they feel comfortable. Dr. Mallon from Center for Advanced Eye Care comes and does an interview. Now he's got the perception he's the expert, and he's been with me 25 years.
Yeah.
And they do very well off of those interviews and people. Yeah.
And the idea is there's not a central place here on the Treasure Coast where somebody can go and get all the best information. Like, hey, where is the best person to go for this condition? Or if I'm, in my 80s and I've got this condition, but I want to kind of explore this treatment, who should I go to? It's very difficult. And so I'm trying to position myself as a centralized hub, right, of information. So I'm introducing the listeners, right, and the viewership and the people that follow us at Perkins to a variety, 5, 10, 15 different doctors who are recognized as experts in their space, top of the game in their space, sharing free information about what they can do, regarding, like, we get a dermatologist on, obviously they do surgery.
Which one?
I'm hoping to have Dr. Hariani from Iconic Dermatology.
Okay. I've met him.
Yeah, good guy.
Not Ramdev, Dr. Sadwani's son, I think.
Son, yes. Yep, absolutely. They run an amazing practice. If not, Dr. Rudolph runs an amazing practice at Suncoast Dermatology. I got a good friend
good things about him.
who graduated pharmacy school with me and then went straight to MD school and is now a dermatologist in town.
Who's that?
Dr. McGregor, who works up at Cleveland Clinic. So I'm going to have one of them on or all three of them on. They're all amazing. But, seeing if we could extract the free information out of them for things that we should be doing every day to have a good skincare routine. Right.
Wow.
And then you go to somebody who focuses on GI. You go to somebody that focuses on podiatry, somebody who focuses on metabolic health, somebody who focuses on hormone replacement.
You know what I have found out through the years? Like, Dr. Steinfeld, the orthopedic surgeon?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
personally.
he's sitting right there one day. And I said to Rich, Dr. Steinfeld, I highly respect him. And when Barbara had cancer, remember she had the broken leg, it was his weekend off. He said, nobody's touching her except Dr. Steinfeld. I'm in here one time. I said, do you like what you're doing? I love it. Now, I had a professor up at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, Dr. McLaughlin, taught me years ago, if somebody hesitates, they're not committed to what do they go, like that. I had Dr. Plain sitting right here. I said, do you like what you do? I love it. At 8 years of age, he put a string around a friend's tooth and pulled it. He was practicing being a dentist then.
Yep.
Wintley Phipps at 9 of age, he's a famous gospel singer, lives up on the beach. At 8 years of age, it was 8 or 9, he took his red wagon, put it on his side, and he was steering the wheel saying, I'm flying from country to country. Now he's one of the most famous gospel singers. He sang for every president at the White House since Reagan, and he travels I wouldn't want his job. I won't tell him that, but every week he's in some different country. Now he's old enough now, the boys have grown up, so he takes his wife, but African-American guy has a real deep voice, amazing grace, that guy. And but he loves what he does. So the important thing is, it's important, like you love what you do.
Yep, absolutely.
See?
Absolutely.
You don't hesitate at all.
Nope.
But who do you want working on you?
Mhm.
I don't want somebody that's doing it as a perfunctory duty or because their parents expected them to become a doctor.
Or because that's just who the insurance pays for. There's a lot of that going on. Like, hey, you've got to go to this guy because he's the one who accepted the lowest rate.
Yeah.
He said he'd do the
And that
surgery
I
for,
don't like.
for $190. So he comes in and gives you $190.
Yeah. Well,
you
I had a
know-
cardiologist in this town.
Yeah.
I'm on high blood pressure pills.
Oh.
So Charlie Solano. He finally says, "Hey, Red, we're gonna have to try this other medicine." I said, "Why?" Well, because the insurance company says you have to do it. So they're practicing medicine without it. He said, I said, "Well, what if it doesn't work?" "Well, if it doesn't work, then we can put you back on what you're on." I said, "Now, doesn't work. That means there's a potential that I could die." He goes, "Yeah." So some guy sitting in an office somewhere, you went to school for 30 years to become a doctor, and he's going to dictate what I get as medicine
Yeah.
to save them money because they're a greedy insurance company.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on?
I could rail against insurance companies all day, but and it's very anti-healthcare what the insurance companies are doing. And again, their entire model is built to make money, right, and prevent you from
And there's
getting
nothing
expensive
wrong-
surgeries.
And they do invest that in
Yeah.
research and development.
And
We don't want to stop that.
and they return it to their shareholders in the forms of profit,
Yeah.
right,
And
for them
this-
to buy
that's
beaches on the house.
capitalism, and capitalism
Yep.
works,
But
but not greed.
But we empower them. You hired that insurance company.
Yeah.
And you told your doctor that you have to follow what my insurance company says. So we have to remember that. Like, we're empowering the insurance companies, and we say, well, it's not me, it's my employer. Well, you choose to work for that employer. And that employer, he's like, hey, I'm just trying to give you a benefit is all, so you'll want to stay and work for me. But doctors and pharmacists and therapists can do whatever is legally right and ethical in this country, right? And so if you do best on a medication, let's just say lisinopril, right? But you're insured, lisinopril, common blood pressure medicine.
Okay.
Let's say you do best on that, but it costs $13 every 90 days. And they want you to be on metoprolol because that costs $8
That's what I'm on.
every 90 days. What I would if you're with a very forward-thinking doctor and pharmacist, to say, why don't you just pay the $13? Okay, it's $4 a month, $4.25 a month. Why don't you just pay the $4.25 a month and be on the medication that?
So do you believe that medication is better than Toprol?
That's very independent upon
so you
genetics.
You don't want to comment on that. Okay, yeah.
Well, it's not the one that's better. It's like, this is the one that's working for you. We already know that. That one works really well for you. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what the med
Why
is.
mess with it?
Why
If
mess
it ain't
with it?
broke, don't fix
Why
it.
mess with it to save $7, right?
Yeah.
And it's the insurance to save $7. You still got a $2 copay, but what doctors, and this is why doctors work with me in this town, right? Send them over there. I just give a fair price. Say, hey, Red, it's just $13, right? And we got to be very tricky or careful because insurance contracts are tricky, and insurances want us to make sure we do what they want, not what the doctor wants or what is best for the patient. But so many times it's not that much money, and you might have a copay anyways on your. Do you pay a copay on your medications?
Well, yeah, I'm 72, so I pay a what do you call it, a bridge insurance?
Yeah. Okay. So you're putting your money,
Medicare, right?
you're putting your money in that way. But like a lot of times, the patient will have a $3 copay on a blood pressure medicine, right? So over 3 months, it's $9 in money out of their pocket, and they had to switch to this other med that the insurance dictated. But for $13, you could have just got the medication you were doing really good on. And so for that reason, a lot of doctors will utilize us because we try to think outside of the box. What's best for the patient? What is doable, what's not doable. And not all medications are $13, but a lot of chronic disease
My
style
Macardis
medications.
is about $130 every 3 months.
Yeah. Yep. And then we could work on that for you. Talk to me afterwards and
should, yeah.
get you a bit of a deal. But nonetheless, we empower
Such a
insurance
deal.
companies.
You want to get a deal?
Yeah, gotcha.
Go to see this guy, Dr. Amir, and and then you have 2 pharmacies. One is out west on Route 16, Vero Beach. It's called
Perkins Pharmacy.
And you have one down in Port St. Lucie, actually in the city of Fort Pierce, right?
Well, it's in the city of Port St. Lucie, right by St. Lucie Medical Center called Butterfields.
Down that way. You're way down there.
Yep, absolutely. And then
What's the name of that?
So that's Butterfields Pharmacy.
Butterfields.
These are both very old brands.
They
Butterfields.
they both have a good history.
75 years, the oldest pharmacy in St. Lucie
How
County.
did you, as a young guy, 40 years of age, end up buying these 2?
It's all God, right? So maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, I went to both of these owners, And
You've been tithing. That's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, God.
Oh,
Hey,
bless me
you
too
gotta
much.
come through. It's the only place in the Bible where he says, "Test me now here with the first fruits of your income."
Yep.
Watch the increase, right?
Yeah. We had an interesting conversation we could have one day. But I went to these guys and said, "Hey, I want to be an independent pharmacy owner. I want to be a compounding pharmacist. I want to take care of the people the way that I want to take care of people." And when you work for a corporate company like Walgreens, you have restrictions, right? And so, if a single mom comes in, right, with 2 kids and she can't afford the medication, I can't discount it for her.
At Walgreens.
At
You
Walgreens.
used to work at Walgreens.
Yeah, Walgreens. Yeah, I can't.
Now you can.
I can't knock $30 off the price.
But now you can.
Now I can, right? Or if I just want to give it to her for free, I just give it to her for free,
Can
right?
you legally do that? It's okay
Yeah,
to do that.
that's what's on my heart to do. And no
Okay?
board is
What
going
God
to
sees in private, He rewards openly.
no board is going to come back and say, "Hey, Amir, why did you give that
we
medication
don't want
for free?"
compassion around
Yeah.
here. This is all about the money.
Exactly. And so I get to practice in the way that I want to practice. I want to take care of people the way I want to take care of people. And so anyways, I had told these guys I'd love to come in and be a junior partner with you, or I'll take less money, or just let me get involved with you. Let me come work here. And it just wasn't the right time for them, right? And so I went back to Walgreens to continue to develop myself. Well, in the end, both of these guys called me.
Edward decided he wanted to get out.
Yeah, and I'd met with Dave. So Dave Wright was the owner of Butterfield's.
Very successful.
Very successful.
Great
yeah,
history
smart
down
guy.
there in Port St. Lucie.
And so I would meet with him like quarterly. He goes to my church. And
Oh.
so I would meet with him like quarterly, and we'd just talk about, just being
So you
being a
built
dad.
relationship.
Yeah, build a relationship, just being a dad and all these things. And honestly, at this time, I was going to get out of the pharmacy game. I had no interest in owning a pharmacy or doing anything. I'm so tired of what was going on at Walgreens and the way that they had devalued the customer experience and taking care of people, that I was actually going to go in the restaurant business.
Really?
And so you go back to COVID time, and I'm talking with Dave.
Well, as you said, you now make recipes of compounds,
Yeah.
but you also love to cook.
I love to cook, and
So
I
that's
was
your way of giving.
And my dad was in the
Nurturing.
restaurant business. Everyone says the restaurant business is tough, and I said, "Well,
What's your history? What's your what are you? I mean, like
Yeah.
Mexican,
yeah,
Italian.
So born in Michigan. My mom is from Indiana, right?
Okay.
And my dad is from Iran. My dad came
Iran.
over here in like late 70s.
Wow.
Mom and dad met at college. Had a wonderful son.
I don't know much about Iranians. I do know, because the Italians, it's all about the food. It's about the love,
Yeah.
But a lot of these places are. I mean, a lot of people are nurture.
The Persian culture, from everything that I gather, see, and observe of my family, and what I hear. I've been there once when I was very young.
What did you observe?
But it's all about coming in, sitting down, and chatting.
3
and
cups
talking.
of tea.
Yeah,
You can't become a friend till you've had 3 cups. Is that right?
Yeah, if I go to my aunt's house in Houston, I went there a couple of years ago. I had a work project for Walgreens. I went in, and it's just me, right?
Yeah.
And I come in, and she's got the entire coffee table filled with foods and treats and sweets and drinks, and just like this entire spread of breads and cream cheeses and walnuts and homemade cherry jams, and they're very into hospitality. Come, sit down. I want to hear about you. What's going on with you? How
Remember,
are things?
in the Old Testament, you take in the stranger. What is true religion? To take the widow, the orphan, and to take in the stranger.
Yeah.
You're coming by a Bedouin's tent. Have you been to Israel yet?
I've not been to Israel, no.
I hope you get to go. I want to go back. I thank God. That's one thing I thank him for. I was in 1985. I went there to shoot that music video, but how was a poor? I didn't have any money. I was living in the ghetto, and God supplied the money miraculously. But I ended up going. But anyway, so a Bedouin, they travel, with their tents. But you go by and they invite you in as a stranger. They did that in the days. That's what happened to Moses when he was out in the desert. Yeah, the guy's dying, and he comes upon the well of Midian, and he has all those beautiful daughters. I think he ended up marrying one of the daughters of the guy. But anyway, invited into the tent, and we're called to do that. The hospitality thing, take in the stranger.
100%. So that's my background, and I think
that's great.
I got a good blend of.
Now, anybody listening to this, and they wouldn't want to get their meds made, but you'd be fooled because you're showing that this is your love. It's not the dough first.
Yeah. The meds are the minor thing, and of course, there's great therapies that we do and offer and manage conditions, and we help people, be healthy and live their best life and go out and, be able to serve and love and do all those things. But
well, we're about out of time for today, but we didn't get to we didn't get to. We got to one sentence.
Yeah.
We got 3 pages
Yeah.
here.
I think we had a great conversation though, and with
I think
Thanksgiving
so,
coming
too.
up, and I hope that people will kind of really sit down, stew on this a little bit, and just try to understand what they can do from a gratitude practice standpoint, how they can improve their own health and well-being, and again the benefits, just to call them out again: lower stress hormones, elevated mood, more motivated, more resilient, to stressful situations, better sleep, We're talking about better health in general just by practicing gratitude.
It's all in the Bible.
Things,
You
all in the
shall
Bible.
enter his gates with thanksgiving and praise.
Yep.
It says in Proverbs, a merry heart maketh good like medicine. Remember that guy Cousins? I think his name was something, Norm Cousins. I forget. That was a doctor. I had him on my show. I don't know if he's still alive now, but he had cancer. So he went out and rented all these movies on the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges and watched them daily.
Yeah.
And they said he healed himself of cancer.
Well, there's
By the laughter.
tremendous wisdom in the Bible. Yeah, and laughter, if you think the way that it modulates the immune system, and back to the biochemical, what is being released when you laugh? What is your mood? What is your serotonin? What is your dopamine? Your norepinephrine? It is physically changing the body in a way that it can help heal itself. So tremendous wisdom in the Bible. Obviously, God wrote that and created the body, so he's got the cheat code of telling us how to live to be our healthiest versions of ourselves, so that we can serve and love others, until the day we get to go home.
Well, it's also, humor is a telltale sign of a deeper intellect, I believe. For instance, I've met George Sr., who's now passed.
Mm-hmm.
I met George W.,
Mm-hmm.
and I met Jeb.
Yep.
Okay, Jeb I've never really liked.
Okay.
He's very dry.
Yeah.
The son who became president, he has a little bit of self-deprecating humor.
Yeah.
He's an okay guy.
Yeah.
But the father and I, he'd always make me laugh.
Yeah.
That guy, the head of the CIA that went on to become vice president, that becomes president of the United States. Herbert Walker, is that who I'm thinking about?
Yeah, Herbert Walker, yeah.
And he was just a delight. Every time I saw guys making me laugh, and funny guy.
I remember, I was born in 83, so I'm just kind of coming to understand politics a little bit when he was running for office. But what was his big thing? It was like, what do you say, like no taxes?
No new tax. Well, his doctor lived in town here.
And he went back on it, though,
Bert
right?
Lee.
Okay.
Bert Lee. And Bert said that when he was the physician at the White House, and he ended up retiring down here in Vero Beach, Florida, and Bert would come on my show frequently. And he said, well, Bert, that night he did that. And he said, I believe I've lost the next election because he said, I went back on my word, and there's some reason he had to do it. And they're down in the he said, in the White House kitchen late at night making a sandwich, and he and Bert, and Bert has some funny stories. You'd like this one. So one time, they have to travel with another airplane. It has all these gadgets on it and equipment for the president to keep him alive and stuff. If something happens. So anyway, they're in China. I think it was China, and the president. It was famous at the time, but you were younger than me, so you may not remember. But he got a flu, so he shouldn't have been there, but he went anyway. The first president, President Bush.
Yep.
Anyway, so he slides off his chair underneath this big long table, having a big special dinner. So Bert goes under the table and crawls up all the way to where the president was.
Mm-hmm.
The president's unconscious, and from this flu, and he undoes his belt buckle and zipper, to loosen things up a little bit. All of a sudden, the president says, "What you doing, Bert? What are you doing?" He says, "I'm just checking on the big one, President. I'm just checking on the big one." So that's a funny story, though.
Indeed.
He used to like to tell that. Bert Lee was a wonderful human being. Matter of fact, later on in life, there was he'd been an oncologist. He'd been the head of named the number one oncology.
Right, John Hopkins.
Up there for years.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady she had pus coming out of her ears, pus coming out of her nose, pus coming out everywhere. They said, "You're going to die. Get your things in order." He wouldn't give up on her. Mm-hmm. Now it's 25 years later. She's healed and puts a full-page article of Bert Lee in the Wall Street Journal. She's a writer for the Wall Street Journal, journalist.
Wow.
And she said, he saved my life because he wouldn't give up. Dr. Bert Lee.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, anyway, so Dr. Amir, pharmacist here in town. Again, we have the Perkins out on Route 60 next to the Taco Bell. There's Perkins that sells the equipment or rents equipment, but you're the one that is the compound place, pharmacy. And then you have one down Butterfields in Port St. Lucie, and you have a good reputation. It's nice of you to drive all the way over here. and be on the show again.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Excited to come back anytime. Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So I know you're turning 52.
Yeah, 52.
I was wrong on 49. It's 52, right?
Somebody out there will believe that.
Yeah.
72. I don't really mind it.
Yeah.
Just as long as, he didn't use Moses till he was 80.
That's right.
So maybe,
You got big things in store for you.
You never know.
Yeah.
I believe I'm a better person than I ever was.
Yeah.
I don't think as highly of myself at all, because you realize well, Billy Graham, who I got the chance of interviewing, he said, well, the closer you get to Jesus, the more you're going to be aware of your sin.
Yeah.
Because he's holiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of a sudden you come up against holiness, it's like, just like Peter. I remember recently, sometime I was praying, I said, oh, Lord, I'd like to see you. Could I just see the hem of your garment? And then I thought, no, on second thought, I don't deserve you. Don't go. Well, it's one thing to sin and not have seen Jesus.
Yeah.
Once you've seen him and then you sin, it's kind of like, then, you can't do that,
Indeed.
Well, anyway, so Amir, I'm glad for your faith, glad for your wife. God bless her, 5 children, homeschooling, and I'll see you real soon.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good. Have
Thanks a lot.
God bless everybody.
Okay.